Good evening, Sports Zonians. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I am Mike Aglioloro. I am your host for this is Sports Zone. Coming to you live like we do each and every week here via the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Radio Network. We got a good show for you tonight. We're going to be joined hopefully by both Dave Hastings and Erich in a matter of moments here. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, we got the recap of week 2 in the NFL football season. Obviously, for us here, the big story is the Cowboys. I'm not going to lie, I was surprised. We're pretty dominant when it came to beating the New York Football Giants this past Sunday. I was a little surprised by that. Last week, I picked the Giants to beat the Cowboys. And listen, I'm probably going to be picking against the Cowboys every week this season. That's just how it is. That's just how I do things. But I genuinely did not think they were going to win this game. I was really not impressed when I saw out of their offense in week 1. The defense is what it is. They have some very talented players on defense. I don't look at them as having a great defense, though. I can't remember the last time I ever looked at the Cowboys and thought, hey, that's a great defense. They looked very good this past week. Even though, let's be honest, last few weeks we killed Erik Flowers. You can't blame Erik Flowers for that one. That was the whole offensive line's playing terrible. I listen to Mike Francesa every day when I get out of work for a little while, and I'm always hearing about the offensive line, and it's true. And it wasn't Erik Flowers this week. Erik Flowers was terrible in week 1. He wasn't that bad in week 2, I think. But with that, we are going to bring Dave Hastings on board. Dave, how you doing tonight? Dave, you there?
Hey, Mike. What's going on, bud?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, my man. How about yourself?
Not too bad. So I was doing a little intro before you came on. I kind of wanted to wait for Erich to come on, but you want to get right into the Cowboys Giants, or you want to say a couple other things that stood out to you this past week in the NFL?
Well, I mean, we could give him a chance to be on. I think that. But no, I mean, honestly, I think the one thing we can bring up that's kind of leaves some room for Erich to get on. I don't know if you heard today about the NFL Hall of Famers saying that they might boycott the Hall of Fame ceremony.
I did.
If the NFL doesn't get them lifetime benefits and salary.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's only a handful of CEOs that have retired in this world, or government officials are about the only ones that get those perks in life.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, listen, I'm sure there are some other places that do have that. I mean, I think unions have something like that, where if you're a member for a certain amount of time, I don't think it's.
You get a pension. You don't get.
Right.
You don't get a paycheck.
Fair enough. I think the paycheck's a little much, but here's the thing that kind of stood out to me. I mean, there's a couple things. It seems like Eric Dickerson is kind of a leading voice in this, and I know it was signed by a number of Hall of Famers. And then Jerry Rice, I think it was Jerry Rice and Kurt Warner came out and said that they never signed anything. They support the idea of ex-players getting health benefits, but they never agreed to be on that boycott.
Yeah, I could see that being some drama. And that's the thing. This is one of the things Erich would point out too, is the fact that the league is getting to a point where it's almost so big their bubble's just gonna burst. They are getting pulled in so many different directions. There's constantly debate on whether they handle a lot of important things and issues the right way. I don't know, man. That shit is that just kind of pile on the list.
Here's my thing, and this kind of just came to mind. Wasn't there some sort of agreement that the NFL was going to take care of medical bills for players who were suffering from CTE or things like that a couple of years ago out of that lawsuit? Didn't something like that already happen, though?
I mean, they all got a payout, but that was really all it was.
All right. I don't know why I thought there was more on that. Here's my thing, though. I get the idea that you don't see that from many companies, but in all fairness, if you read their statement, they said, you look at where the NFL is right now, the majority of us helped build this game to where it is, to the point where it made $14 million. Now, I get that it's more about the team, but I do get the argument that these guys were part of the league from when it was wasn't as big popularity wise, and they've seen it grow to this point. And those stars did really kind of usher the NFL into the modern era. I get that argument. Do we really think a boycott of the Hall of Fame ceremony is going to achieve it, though? Because I don't.
No, because not enough people care, and the guys it's all about the guys that are getting inducted anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
guys that are going to go there that don't agree with it, and like I said, it's just another thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just another thing for the league where you're just like, I don't know if it's just the major effect of social media now or what, but it is just, oh my God, it's just nonstop with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Here's another thing. I want to talk about the Josh Gordon situation because here's my thing. They said he didn't have a relapse. So what was it? I mean, Cleveland basically held out for Josh Gordon for 4 years. How do you lose faith in or thinking about releasing him that quickly? He's only been back on your active roster for not even 2 weeks. What do you think could have happened if it wasn't a relapse?
Honestly, I don't know if maybe it's just they like the wide receivers that they have. I really don't know, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But once again, it's like the rich get richer, and New England finds another. I mean, the one thing you would say about them is they don't have a studded wide receiver. Even Edelman's just a product of that scheme. I will stand by that statement. I'm sorry.
Mm.
He benefits from Brady. Him and Brady get on the same page. He took over that Wes Welker, role, and there you go. I mean, so no disrespect to him. The man's earned his spot. He plays really good, but I don't know. To me, it's one of those things that I think adding Josh Gordon to me is just as similar as when they added Randy Moss. Maybe not as big, but I think Gordon can play. That's huge. And honestly, I have no idea what Cleveland's thinking, but it's Cleveland. Maybe they're really just trying to turn the page on a lot of things. I don't know.
I mean, I get that. It just seems the timing just seems a little odd because you think about it, they could have turned the page on him anytime they wanted to over the last couple of years. You finally get him back. You finally get some degree of him being in the right frame of mind, and then all of a sudden, some promotional shoot, and he's gone. So I just thought that was weird. Though I will agree. I mean, this is similar to the Randy Moss thing because Randy Moss wore out of his welcome. I think he was in Oakland at that point very quickly, and then New England takes him on. I don't even think they gave up that much to get him. Truthfully, I'm blanking. I don't even think it was the first round pick they gave up for him.
They gave up a 5th-round pick, and if he plays less than 10 games, Cleveland also sends New England a 4th-round.
Right, and I think the Patriots also get like a 7th-round pick back too, right? A conditional one,
I think. From what I know, it was just the 5th-round pick they gave up, and then it's either the 7th or the 4th. I think that's what it is.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's go around the NFL a little bit. Let's talk about some of the other things that stood out first. We have another tie second week in a row we have a tie ball game between the Packers and the Vikings. How about that?
I mean, field goal kickers, and now the Vikings go out and sign Dan Bailey, which just hurt. That just really, 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 really hurt. So they go out and sign Dan Bailey. At least he's on a winning team, so I'm happy for him that way. I mean, Aaron Rodgers basically playing on 1.5 legs, but missed field goals. It really came down to that. It shows you how important that role on the team is. Everybody makes kickers, and they're maybe the last fantasy pick you make if you even draft one. Like, it's just one of those things. But they are literally the difference between 2-0 and 1-0-1. Yeah, I mean, and that could be huge come the playoff race in December and January. So that's that. It's surprising too. I think it's only like the second time in the Super Bowl era there's been ties in back-to-back weeks. So like the odds of it happening are so slim. To me, it just brings up the debate again of why there's ties in the NFL. I don't get it. Like, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, I get how physical the game is, and you don't want these guys to keep playing. But to me, you just line them up, do what they do in college. Just let it be what it is. I mean, but that's the problem. It could last for, another hour and a half, and these guys just hitting each other. So.
Yeah. To go to your point with kickers, I am surprised Dan Bailey made it past week 2. I really am. I really thought he was going to get snapped up before the season started, to be sure. But then you look, it's not even just him in Minnesota, man. You look at the Cleveland game. Cleveland has a chance to at least tie against the Saints. And Zane Gonzalez, I think was his name, misses 2 field goals. He also missed 2 extra points in the game, and he gets replaced by an undrafted kicker out of Florida, I believe.
Yeah, it literally is the difference between winning and losing, or tying, I guess you'd say as well in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's interesting, man. That's for sure.
Absolutely. What else stood out to you in week 2 there?
Well, I mean, without even having to touch on the game, we can touch on one game that has numerous storylines. You got the Chiefs Steelers game where, Mahomes goes off for 6 touchdowns.
That's insane.
Playing out of his mind, and he's, it's his 3rd start of his career.
Yeah.
Now, we all know how it is. Rookie quarterbacks can come out pretty good, and they always kind of take a lull around halfway through the season, a little later in the season once teams start getting film. But either way, 6 touchdowns, no picks. That's just ridiculously impressive. But the drama in Pittsburgh that you got going on, I mean, it's Antonio Brown leaves. He doesn't come, he leaves right away. Doesn't come in today or whatever for practice. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just. It's like all of a sudden things are just blowing up in Pittsburgh one by one. And I don't know. I love Tomlin as a coach, so I hate seeing it happen. But usually when shit like that happens, the fingers get pointed at the coach.
Well, I will say this before someone has joined us here. I definitely think, they should just pay Le'Veon Bell, in my opinion. They're a different team without him. I know Connor had the good week 1 and everything. He's been fine. They're not winning the Super Bowl without Le'Veon Bell, in my opinion. But it's time to get sweaty because Erich Tressler is here, ladies and gentlemen. Erich, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing better than the situation in Pittsburgh, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it is. I think a guy I listened to earlier, I heard a little bit of what Ryan Clark said earlier today. He used to play for them and all. And he kind of put it best. They're lacking veteran leadership. They're lacking a team-first guy. They're missing a Hines Ward, a James Ferrier. They're missing that kind of guy that sets the example that the Steelers are known to set. They don't have that guy right now. They have a bunch of individuals right now and no team leader. And that's why you're seeing the fractions. That's why you're seeing people talk. It's usually custom in locker rooms that you don't get in other people's pockets. Regardless of what happens, you're all brothers on the field. Off the field, you stay out of those things. Like, you just do. With people commenting about Bell, and now the thing with Antonio Brown, and that guy that he was tweeting with is, I guess, an ex-Steeler employee. He's not a current Steeler employee. But it's still all just a bad optive. It just shows a lack of leadership. It shows a lack of discipline. And I think you're right when you say that Tomlin could be on the hot seat because of it. And I think he should be. You've got to get somebody in there you trust that could be a leader for that team. And right now they don't have that guy.
Absolutely.
That's actually, Mike, real, I got to say, that's actually a great point just because if you think about it, one of the things that – you got Big Ben almost 1 foot out the door basically every year wondering if he's going to play over the last 2 seasons. And then, Le'Veon holding out for his contract with the O-line. Yeah, like there are a lot of things that you just where there's no real, somebody to take control of the team and say, hey, we're all in this together because at this point in time, it really is kind of every man's for himself.
Absolutely. I agree with both of you guys on that. You don't even have a James Harrison there anymore. Or even Ryan Shazier at some point, I felt like he was becoming the leader on at least the defense. But, yeah, I'll say this. I think that Brown tweet that he made yesterday to the ex-Steeler employee that Erich was talking about, I think that kind of got overblown a little bit. I mean, yeah, he could have used a little bit better judgment when he was doing that. But in my opinion, he's not saying he wanted to be traded. The guy's complaining about him saying he's an average receiver, and he's just like, all right, you don't like me, tell the team to trade me. I didn't see anything wrong with that, really. I don't know if you guys felt any differently.
I mean, I didn't read too much into it in general. It probably is being more blown out of proportion than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Erich?
Yeah, I agree with that. Just blown out of proportion. It was just one of those reactionary things. He's like, listen, you don't think I'd be shit on any other team and trade me? I'll show you. You don't think I'm worth it here, but again, that's an ex-employee talking crap about a team that he isn't working for anymore. So I can't put a whole lot of stock into what he's saying. And I think everybody out there with a set of eyes that watches football can tell Antonio Brown would be a pretty damn good receiver, a number 1 receiver on any other team in the league. So
absolutely.
This guy's kind of talking out his ass a little bit, if you ask me. And Antonio Brown's just saying, shut up, and if you don't believe me, trade me. I'll show you.
Yeah, I would take him on Dallas. I'll say that much.
Absolutely.
There's not a team in the league that wouldn't take an Antonio Brown. Honest to God, I can't think of one.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And to go to Dave's point, I mean, Dallas is so hard up. We just brought Bryce Butler back, and he's probably going to be the number 1 receiver this week, at least in my opinion. So I'll throw another one out there. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick the next Case Keenum this year? Dave, we'll start with you.
No, bro. No, everybody in the NFL knows who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. Mm-hmm. They're playing good football. He has rhythm with his receivers and his tight end. Offensive line's blocking well. And they're just playing good football. But we all know who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. All NFL teams know who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. And you got to also keep in mind he's pushing his late 30s now. So he's not really going to be in the league much longer anyway. So I think it's one of those things that, they're going to ride him high. And I think the more interesting question is when Winston's out of his suspension, what do you do? If Fitzpatrick has a bad game, maybe 2 weeks after Jameis is cleared, like, what do you do in this situation? Like, that's where I'm curious to see what happens because it's only a week away.
Absolutely. Erich?
Well, right now, he is the leader of that team. You could tell by yesterday's press conference when he came out dripping into Deshaun Jackson's clothes, getting up on the bike with his hair, chest, and all. You could just tell that, like, the locker room was behind him. Like, people were behind him. They were feeling the Fitzmagic, which I can't believe he didn't even get the trademark on. Minka Fitzpatrick from the Dolphins got the trademark on it a week ago.
Oh, that's horrible.
Wow.
But it is alive and well there in Tampa, and I'm a fan of it. You ride it as long as possible. As long as your team is playing well and winning games, you ride Fitzmagic until the magic runs out. Then you can go back to Winston. Winston will be there. Winston's young. But Winston, you can tell the last couple of seasons, I don't think he's had full control of this team.
No,
I think the
remember
guys
that horrible
rallying behind.
where he's eating his fingers?
Wait a minute,
You know what I mean? But I feel like the guys are rallying, and the guys in the locker room are rallying behind Fitzpatrick. They're playing well behind him. You know, like you said, the offensive line's playing well. He's got good rhythm with the receivers and the tight end. It all seems to be working right now in Tampa, and I don't think you change that up just because Jameis comes off suspension. But Jameis is their franchise quarterback. He is probably at least their short-time future because, let's face it, everybody knows Fitzmagic is just that. It's magic. It's not going to last forever. Everybody knows Fitzpatrick. He's had these seasons before. He had that 133 touchdown year with the Jets, and he had that one great year with Buffalo, and he just seems to every now and then just click, and something works for him. Well, right now he's in that stage, and you got to leave him alone. Let him do his thing. Let the team have fun, because that's part of it too. If the team's having fun, let them go with it. If they're winning and having fun, that's what football's about. That's what you want your locker room to be. And I don't think you mess that up by benching him just because Jameis came back off a suspension.
I totally agree with both of you guys on that. Dave, we were talking about it last week. You're definitely going to ride the hot hand here. Erich, I thought that was a great point about the locker room leader and everything. He comes out looking like a cross between Conor McGregor and Tom Bambino, and you guys don't know who that last one is, but it's okay. But anyway, he comes out looking like that, and he just looks like the most relaxed guy in the room, and he's earned it at this point. And Erich, like he said, definitely got the whole locker room behind him, and you have to ride this as much as possible. For everything that Winston did off the field, it's pretty obvious, at least at this moment, I don't think the Buccaneers have faith in him. And I think they were hoping something like this could happen. It's not that they want to get rid of him. I think at the very least, they want something to wake him up and get him to grow up a little bit. If something like this can help him out down the road, Dave, like you said, give him a few weeks. When Fitzpatrick starts to kind of flame out, hope you can go back to Winston and he finally has his stuff together, because he looked like he was finally starting to take that next step a couple of years ago. And then last season, he kind of bottomed out. So
I think the real question is as simple as this. If this week Fitzpatrick, let's say, is the reason they lose, and they lose like by a couple of scores, let's say he throws a couple picks, maybe loses a fumble, whatever, but he just plays a really bad game and they lose really bad. Are you benching him for Winston in week 4, or are you going to keep him in that starting role and say, hey, it's just one bad game, we'll go by?
Erich, I'll let you go, but I'm going to go first. I think he at this point he's earned one bad game, and they got the Steelers this week. I don't think he's having a bad game this week, but if he does, you let him play that Bears game in week 4, another bad game, then you go back to Winston in week 5. Erich?
I don't know, because it depends on how they lose. If they lose in a shootout and he throws 5 touchdowns, I can't see benching him.
Like they lose by a couple scores bad because of him.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, anybody could see that. But I think the more interesting point would be if they somehow were losing these games, but yet he's still playing well. At that point, do you bench him?
That's a good point. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, if he's playing well, I'm keeping him in. If we're not losing because of him, he's playing. It's that simple to me.
I would in that scenario, I would at least give him the 2 weeks. If they lose 2 straight games and he's playing well, I would think about it. I might give him a 3rd game, but if they lose that 3rd game, I'd still make the change. That's just me, though. I don't know. Erich, before we talk about the game that I know everybody wants us to talk about, do you have anything else that stood out to you in week 2?
Not necessarily week 2, but week 3 of the college football season. Saw some interesting games. I always like to point that out. LSU, the only team in the country now with 2 top 10 wins, and only the 3rd time in the last, 70 years, I think it's happened, that somebody within the first 3 weeks of the season has actually beaten 2 top 10 opponents. So that's pretty interesting. Bama just looks unreal. And I actually want to get your guys' take, more importantly than both of those things. I want to get your guys' take on Ohio State and Urban Meyer.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you brought this up. Yeah. Dave, if you'd like to go first, go ahead.
I mean, I don't know how much more can be said that hasn't been said already, but I will simply say this. He needs to stop doing interviews, and when he takes over, when he's coaching, I think he's back after this coming week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back this coming week. So, like, to me, I just shut up, stay off the microphone, coach, win games. But to me, it's just a mess, and I don't really, I don't know. I really just don't like the situation.
Should be there. Should be the head coach.
Oh, okay. Dave, are you still going?
No, I'm good. It's ridiculous. I'm good with that one.
Well, I'm going to confess, I didn't know he said something else this weekend. But
he had a huge interview.
Yeah.
I was just trying to help this guy. It was, oh my God, it made me sick to my stomach to listen to because he has zero remorse. He literally thinks he did nothing wrong. He thought he was a gentleman and tried to help this guy. And he's like firing him because of the effect, because of what happened would have just hurt him and his family. And I was trying to rehabilitate him. But then in the next breath, he says he didn't know anything about it and didn't see the pictures of Courtney until 3 weeks ago and like whatever else. He's just so full of shit. It's just unbelievable. It's coming out of every orifice. I don't know how they allow him to keep talking. I don't know how somebody isn't there with a big hook ripping him off the microphone. I don't understand it.
Back in the vaudeville days. Well, listen, full disclosure, guys, I kind of got a promotion a couple weeks ago, and I'm in the process. I'm kind of in the process of opening a Halloween City in Newburgh before I take over the Halloween City / Toy City in Middletown. So I've been working some crazy hours the last couple weeks. But let me tell you something. Putting out parades sucks, guys. Putting up signage is even worse. But anyway, here's what I don't get though. He knew about everything in 2015. He probably should have fired him back in 2015. But he warned the guy if something else happened, or if somebody tell me specifics on this, because I know some of it, but I don't know the whole thing. So he obviously knew the whole thing and should have fired him, but he didn't because he was friends with him, right?
Yeah, exactly. He followed him. He was a guy. He was actually came from his Florida days, and even further back than that. I forget whether he was a player or he even went back further than the Florida days. But yeah, he's been Urban Meyer's guy every stop he's gone to, and he was trying to protect his own. That's the way I see it. And at some point, you just got to shut up, though, because he's just burying himself. He's just lie after lie after, because he's got to tell one lie to cover up the last lie. It's just unreal. And, I mean, you can't deny what happened. It happened. Like, it's not a fairy tale. He makes it seem like it wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting.
That's the biggest problem. He makes it feel like it's not. He wasn't that big of a deal.
I mean, listen. Here's my take. We live now in the era of the Me Too movement and everything. So unfortunately, shit like this with Urban Meyer and this guy Smith, this has been going on for decades. And there are many people who should have lost their jobs many years sooner that didn't wind up doing it. And now everything's coming out into the open in the last year. It started with the Harvey Weinstein thing, and it's continued. Now it's moving to sports and everything. Meyer should have been fired. And we all know why he didn't, because he's got the great record at Ohio State the last few years and everything, and won the national championship and everything. The initial press conference, because I know about the initial press conference where he said he didn't know, and then the wife is like showing text messages that she sent to his wife or something. So
Yeah.
I agree with you guys that he should just keep his mouth shut and everything. And we all know Ohio State looks terrible here for just giving him the slap on the wrist and everything. If anything, you probably should have suspended him for at least the season if you're not going to fire him. And in fact,
he still hasn't even talked to her, Mike. He still hasn't even talked to Courtney Smith. Urban Meyer has not made any type of effort at all whatsoever, admitted it in the interview that he has not spoken to her, doesn't plan really to speak to her, but might speak to her at some point in the future. Like, he has zero regard for her. And that's the thing that bothers me the most is, like, he has zero remorse, zero feelings towards this. And that's what bothers me. Like, I can forgive. I mean, the people out there can forgive.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to, like, accept any kind of responsibility, and you're going to lay on the fact that, like, oh, I was just trying to help the guy. I thought I was being the good guy. I didn't get suspended over domestic violence. I got suspended because I didn't, fire this guy sooner. It was just a misconduct thing that I got suspended for. And, like, everything that comes out of his mouth sounds bad right now. And I don't know why the AD and the president aren't telling him no more interviews. No more people, no newspapers, no nothing. You need to just sit on the sidelines and do your job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he still has a job.
Let me ask you a question here, Eric. Because at the time this whole thing broke, there were people, when I would listen to WFAN, there were people who would compare this situation to Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky. You go that far?
Less creepy because it involves no boy touching.
You know what I mean, though. You know what I mean.
I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? It's two different cases.
No.
Those are two big sexual, like, assault scandals.
Listen,
so, like, I can't wait for you. Which one's worse, touching little boys? Or...
No. I'm not saying worse. I'm just saying both coaches, in one way, shape, or form, enabled the whole thing by not firing the guy who was responsible for it, if you think about it. Because that's why Paterno wound up getting let go and his statue wound up coming down in Penn State. And in a way, that's what he did. That's what Meyer did here with Zach Smith by not firing him when the whole thing happened. So that's what I'm saying. Do you think the comparison is fair?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't think it's. I think it's two different cases. They're both terrible in their own right, but I don't think it's fair to compare.
Okay. Dave, what do you think about that, though?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm leaving that one alone.
And for the record, obviously the Sandusky thing is worse. I'm not trying to say that it's not worse. I'm just saying there are parallels in terms of two guys who enabled guys who were doing things wrong, sexual predators, if you want to call them that. They enabled both of them. They basically let things slide because the guys helped them win. That's the only comparison I was making. Obviously, the Sandusky stuff is worse. Would never try to say that if that wasn't worse, but anyway. All right, let's get off this depressing stuff. Good. Any final thoughts, or can we move on? Did I just kill this conversation? I'm sorry.
We're good. Good.
Hey, listen, I brought it up because I had to get it out. I mean, it's one of the biggest topics in sports right now. I mean, you got to talk about it. It's crazy. It's not.
But bottom line is the Ohio State needs to tell Urban Meyer no more interviews. Enough stuff. Shut the hell up. Coach and win. That's it.
No, you know what they need to do? When he's sleeping, they need to put one of those shot collar things. They need to embed a chip in his neck. And every time he goes up to the press conference, you just hit the button and shock him every time he opens his mouth. That'll get him to shut up.
There you go.
Yeah, all right, Eric, I'm going to give you a couple minutes here before, as long as we're off of football for a second, before we go back. We'll talk a little Giants-Cowboys, but before we do that, your Yankees are playing Boston tonight. Boston's up 1-0. They called Justice Sheffield up. Aaron Judge is playing tonight. Any thoughts, anything you'd like to say Yankee-wise?
Yeah, I got a thought that Boston's changing pitchers right now. We got first and second. I don't know if anybody's out. and it's looking pretty promising. So I'm feeling pretty good right this second. It's only a 1-0 game, and I'm excited because my bachelor party's next weekend, and I'll be up there watching the Yankees play Boston next Friday night.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't get yourself killed there. Just take it easy.
No, we're going to have fun.
All right. How deep did you say you were rolling again? Didn't you say you had like 20 people with you or something?
No. It's only it's going to be final count of 6 for the bachelor party.
Ah, gotcha. All right. Oh, by the way,
it's going to be a good crowd. A lot of fun.
Loved the ticket you sent for the save the date for the wedding. Loved
Hell
that.
yeah, Eric, that was badass.
Yeah. That was
Right?
awesome.
You like that?
Yeah. And I'll tell you this. I'd seen this before. Your fiance has an awesome last name. I don't know if you want me to say it on the air, but I was a huge fan of Rodney. Loved Rodney, so I love that last name.
Yeah, no, she has an awesome last name, and that's unfortunate for her that she's going to be taking mine. But
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, actually. All right. All right. Let's talk about this Giants-Cowboy game. So I want to point out here, as far as our picks go last week, Erich had sent me his picks during the show, or maybe it was after the show. I don't remember. He is actually the only one of the three of us who picked the excuse me, you picked the Cowboys to win last week, right?
I don't know, whatever I sent you.
Yeah, I wrote down the Giants, but I'm pretty sure you wrote the Cowboys. I don't know why I put that. I gotta check it.
I'm going back through the list right now. Check.
Yeah, I screwed up the whole thing. I screwed it up. I apologize, guys. Hang on. I'm telling you. Oh no, you did pick Giants. All right.
Yeah, Giants.
All right.
Giants,
So
Packers last week.
yeah. Okay. So we all picked the Giants to win. So obviously, Dave, I know we were both surprised that the Cowboys came out like that. Landon Collins had made a comment last week. Something to the effect that Prescott can't throw in the air, and then one of the first plays of the game throws a 60-yard bomb to Tavon Austin. The defensive line pretty much had their way with the Giants' offensive line, and we've been ripping Eric Flowers pretty hard the last few weeks. Eric, you can't blame Eric Flowers for that one.
He sucks.
He
blame him
sucks.
every.
No, he does suck, but you can't blame him for last week. He actually handled DeMarcus Lawrence.
I blame him for every week because the continuity of the line would be better if we had anybody else there. The guys are always constantly thinking about who he's not going to pick up and who they're going to have to try and double team, and it throws everything off. He's unreliable. He's terrible. And I don't see a way that the Giants offense can really get going until the front office finally gives up on them. I really don't because, I mean, it's just a struggle to get anything moving offensively. There's no continuity.
Yeah. And then what? You lost your center for the season. Jalapeno?
Alopecia.
I'm pretty sure that's not how you pronounce that.
Jalapaya.
Yeah. Okay.
Halitosis.
There you go. Dave, you got anything you want to chime in?
I mean, look, Dallas's defense looked really good for the second week in a row for the most part. If I'm the Giants, I think they got to figure out more ways to get Saquon the ball. You know, even if it is just getting 1 or 2 yard gains. I don't know. I just feel like they got to commit more to that. But my favorite part of the game is the Jalen Smith hit on Eli and the Eli face that came from it, because that was the most priceless Eli face I've ever seen. And that hit was just something that was tenacious.
So that's the thing, though, is Eli gets hit and he just keeps going. That's the thing as a Giants fan that I've always come to love. He gets that stupid grin on his face. He gets some weird look, but he's always in the game. It doesn't matter how hard he gets hit. And that's what I can appreciate about the guy. So, I mean, it wasn't his best night last night, but I don't blame it all on the O-line. And, I mean, listen, Dallas, you know, I've been telling you guys, I think Dak Prescott's your guy for the future. You know, I think that, you know, you guys are all right. I think you guys lack receivers. And I'm kind of still wondering why you even sign a guy like Allen Hurns if you're just never going to throw him the ball or use him or really do much with him. Like, he's been pretty non-existent, if I'm not mistaken, the first 2 weeks.
No, you're right on that. He only had one catch for 9 yards. I think he only looked his way twice. So you're right on that.
I don't get why they don't use Prescott more in the run game. Like, it's mind-blowing to me. I mean,
you don't want to get him hurt. It's too much of a liability. He's worth more to you behind the line of scrimmage than he is getting first downs with his legs. You need him on third down scrambles and other things like that where he can get mobile, get you the extra first down that you need to keep a drive alive. You don't want to involve him too much because you're just risking injury and for no reason. Especially if he's a guy that could be your future. Why risk it?
I'm just saying, 4 or 5 carries a game. I don't think that's too much.
No, but isn't that what he gets normally anyway? Like, at least because of scrambles and whatnot.
Well, for the record, this week 7 rushes, 45 yards, 6.4 average rush. So
more designated little, or I don't know, dude. Just some of that Mississippi State stuff. Just give it to him.
Oh, but sorry to interrupt, but 3-1 Yanks in case anyone was interested. 3-run homer.
Nice.
All right.
Who hit the homer? Who hit the homer?
Who hit the homer?
Yeah.
It looks like Neil Walker.
Oh, no kidding.
Neil Walker.
Yeah. Great. That's just great. All right. Let's get off of that. Bring up bad. I don't even want to think about it. All right. Anyway.
Back to the Cowboys and Giants.
Yeah.
Cowboys look like the better team. They deserve the win. I know the Giants made a late game push, but it just wasn't enough. And Dallas took us this time. I think it's going to take the Giants a few more weeks to get the line right, or at least get everybody compensating for Flowers appropriately. And I'm hopeful for the second half of the Giants season.
So I'm just curious here because here's the thing. I've never disputed that Flowers is terrible. I've never disputed that. Soldier hasn't played well. The kid Will Hernandez does not look anything like the player everybody kind of hyped him up to be. And you're saying it's all because they think they have to overcompensate for Flowers?
I'm saying he's a big reason.
Okay.
I'm saying that the continuity on the line is the reason, and I think Flowers is a big part of that. I think he is a black cloud hanging over this offense.
He's the black sheep of the offense.
Say that again, Dave.
He's the black sheep of the offense.
He is, but he's like a terrible black sheep who's just not very good. Like, he's not a good sheep. Like, he's like a sheep that wanders away and gets lost, and you gotta just constantly helping this poor black sheep. I just not a fan. Gotta go.
Skin him, cut him up.
Yeah, Melissa, I'm not little Bo Peep here. You better perform. We're not dancing around singing songs. We're performing. Let's go.
Nice. Beautiful. Yeah. All right. See, it sucks for me. I hear the phrase "black sheep." I think of the movie with Chris Farley, and I like that movie. So let's not give that to Eric Flowers. Flowers probably deserves worse, but anyway. All right. Let's talk our picks for this week. Let's go to our picks. Unless anybody has anything else to say from week 2. Anybody got anything else from week 2?
I think the Saints got some work on. I'll say that much.
All right.
I think you guys already talked about it, but Mahomes going off. I mean, he's looking pretty good. And something just doesn't seem right still with Deshaun Watson.
Something doesn't seem right with Deshaun Watson. I can see that. I can definitely see that. I'll say that going back to the Mahomes thing, I think we all thought the Chiefs were going to take some sort of step back. Dude, they ain't taking a step back this year. It doesn't look like it. They with this team they got right now, they got a chance to have superseded the Steelers as at the very least the second best team in the AFC right now.
And how do we not talk about Jacksonville and the Patriots? Maybe you guys talked about before I got on, but
We did not.
I mean, another huge game that Jacksonville actually went in and beat up on the Patriots. They pretty much dominated that whole game.
Yeah, they basically owned that game from kickoff, and I mean, Brady getting mad at halftime. I always just laugh. People get all get on Dez because he go nuts on the sideline. And you see Brady doing it, nobody even bats a freaking eye. I'm sorry, I just had to point that out real quick. But I'm sorry, I'm all in with this whole Jacksonville thing. I am cool with them being a good team. It's fun. They've been so it's like the Browns. Like you kind of get happy for them, Like with the Jets, you kind of want to see them have that franchise quarterback. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm with it. I'm all with it, especially when they're beating up on New England. That just is like adding whipped cream to a good ice cream sundae.
Yeah, and Bortles going off for 377 yards and 4 touchdowns, man. That's incredible. And you want to talk about the Cowboys with a bad receiving core. You look at the Jaguars receivers, Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook, Dante Moncrief, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, a freaking tight end. I mean, these are nobodies, basically. And they wind up having 377 yards. So it can be done.
I don't know if you saw Cole's catch, but Cole's catch was pretty nice.
Yeah, it was.
Dude, Cole and Westbrook have been really good for the last year. I'd say since Allen Robinson went down last season for them, those two have been really good. But I'm saying I don't think you can consider either of them like top 20 or even top 30 wide receivers. And they're able to win with those guys. So
it's all that offensive scheme, man, and your quarterback making throws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this.
They win games in the trenches. They good offensive line and good defensive line.
Yep. And I'll tell you this last point, and then we'll go to our picks, man. I'm happy for Tom Coughlin that after the way the Giants situation ends for him, he takes over as team president of the Jaguars, and he basically turns the franchise around. But leaving Doug Marrone as the head coach, he doesn't even sign Bortles to a long-term extension. I think he got like a 2-year deal or something like that, and they're able to put this together. So there's definitely another team that's going to be competing for that, at the very least, the AFC conference game. Because I think at this point, do we consider both the Jaguars and the Chiefs better than the Steelers at this point? Because I think there's definitely a case there, especially with Bell. Dave?
I think that's kind of fair to say. I mean, Pittsburgh and Kansas City, I think, are a little closer, but Jacksonville with that defense, that's just something else. And without Le'Veon Bell, I mean, now if we put Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh, now we're having a different conversation. But
I can agree with that.
Without Le'Veon Bell and being able to control the clock a little bit more, without being able to, give that defense some rest, like things along those lines, they're just not going to be as good as they can be.
Erich?
I mean, Kansas City put up a lot of points, but so did Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. So I don't know how much having Le'Veon Bell there is really hurting them offensively or defensively, but I would say as of right now, week 3, yes, but I would put a little asterisk there and say, see me at the end of the season and see if these results change. Because the Steelers now and playoff Steelers could be two different teams. So, and I don't think any of us think that the Steelers aren't going to make the playoffs. So,
no, that's true.
I think that they'll get things figured out, and we may be having a different conversation come December.
Here's the last point I'll make is we all know the Steelers can't beat the Patriots. The Jaguars had their chances to beat them in that AFC conference game. I think they probably played them tougher in the playoffs than the Steelers have at times. And then they win this game in week 2. So that's what I would put in the Jaguars' corner there. That's all. Even though, Erich, I agree with your point. There's an asterisk there for right now because it is only week 2. So let's go to our picks here. So Erich goes 2-0-1 last week, and me and Dave, 1-1-1 last week. I got my stuff wrong here. Screwing up everything tonight. I apologize, guys. All right. So Erich went 1-1-1. Me and Dave both went 1-1-1. Me and Dave are 3-2-1 on the season. Erich is 2-3-1 on the season. And the 3 games we are picking tonight, we will start with the Thursday night game. We haven't even talked about the Jets yet this season. With Sam Darnold, the quarterback, going into Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns, who came within a field goal of possibly their first win in almost 2 years. Let's start with Erich here. Erich, who you got?
Cleveland getting their first win in almost 2 years.
Absolutely. I'm going to agree with Erich on that one. I have Cleveland as well. Darnold's been good at times. He's gotten sacked like 5 or 6 times already in the season. He's got like 3 interceptions. He had that big one in the end zone last week. I think the Jets definitely have something at quarterback with him there, but there's going to be some growing pains. And, yeah, one of them is going to be giving the Browns their first win in almost 2 years. Dave, what do you say?
We're making it a clean sweep. I actually think Cleveland's going to get their first win against the Jets as well. And Taylor has experience against that defense, so that should also come to play. Help with Jarvis Landry. So I think that they'll be able to use to their benefit on a short week.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so the next game in a matchup of 2 0-2 teams, you have the Giants going into Houston to take on the Texans. And I started with Erich first on the first one. I should have started with Dave first because, Erich, I want to hear your thoughts on this one. Sorry, Dave.
It's all good, bud.
Cool. Erich, go ahead.
Is J.J. Watt playing?
I mean, as far as I know,
Yeah.
he is. I think it's Clowney who might not play.
Yeah, but as much as I really want to be a homer and take my Giants, they're going to Houston, and I don't think they're just quite right yet. I'm going to Houston.
Fair enough. Dave, who you got?
Well, it's funny Erich mentions J.J. Watt. Yesterday was the 2-year mark since his last sack. So I think J.J. Watt gets his first sack in 2 years. I don't think the Giants have enough answers on defense to deal with DeAndre Hopkins, a healthy Fuller, and a Deshaun Watson that can scramble around. And offensively, with the loss of the center, like Erich said, you need continuity on that offensive line, and with them not trusting Flowers, so they're constantly rolling their protection that direction. They're trying to help them. And now your center, who helps call out all the audibles with your quarterback for the offensive line, is down. That really spells some bad looks. But, I mean, hey, you never know. Teams step up in bad circumstances sometimes. But I don't think I got to go with Houston on this one.
Well, I'll say this. I think the Giants definitely have a chance here. Listen, Houston has this great defense on paper, at least. But for some reason, the defense, in my opinion, can almost never come together when it counts. They'll pull a couple games together every here and there, and then something will happen. Marcellus, I think is his last name, he'll get hurt, or Clowney will get hurt, or Watt will get hurt. None of the 3 of them can ever seem to stay on the field at the same time. So it's definitely a shaky defense. But right now, this Giants offensive line is playing so poorly, and Dave, you mentioned the center being out again. Yeah, I got to go with Houston here too. But I think it's going to be a very close game, though. I wouldn't be surprised if it's within a field goal, like 23-20, something like that. I think the Giants offense will look a little better this week than it has the last 2 weeks. So, and the last game, battle 1-1 teams. I think it's 1-1. Dallas going into Seattle to take on the Seahawks. And Dave, who you got?
Well, I mean, it's really this simple to beat Seattle at this point. Can you hit Russell Wilson enough times? Can you get him to make a mistake or force, get a fumble or force a turnover? Doug Baldwin's probably not playing, I don't think. Seattle's defense is hit and miss, but they will, they're missing their 2 top linebackers this past week. So they get both of them back this week, so that should definitely make them a lot better against the run. Dallas's offense, if they can this one's a rough game for me to pick. I don't think I picked Dallas week 1, they lost. I picked Dallas, the Giants week 2, they won. So yeah, I'm going to take Dallas. I think Dallas can pull this win off on the road.
All right. And Seattle is 0-2 right now. I apologize for the wrong record there. Erich, who you got?
Picking Dallas. I think that they're going to start getting things figured out, and I just don't think the Seahawks are playing well right now. Again, another team where I just don't trust it. I don't think they have the right chemistry this year. I don't think it's their year, and I think this is one the Cowboys can steal on the road. So I'm going to take the Cowboys.
So we know in the past I have picked against the Cowboys in the hopes that the Cowboys will win the game. And I see no reason not to do the same thing this week. So I'm going to pick Seattle. I mean, listen, they're one of the only teams in the NFL who could say they might have a worse offensive line situation than the New York Giants. I think they have a good defense, though. And as much as the Cowboys' offensive line held pretty strong last week, I need to see a few more weeks out of them before I can get behind this offensive line without Travis Fredericks, because that still worries me, not having them. To me, that is the biggest loss on this team right now. It's not Des Bryant. It's not Jason Witten. It's not Dan Bailey. It's not having Travis Fredericks. That's my thing. And until I see that offensive line capable of maybe not being the same, but at least in the same ballpark as the offensive line we've seen the last couple of years, I don't trust it. So I'm going to pick Seattle, and if I'm wrong, hey, good for me. All right, so those are our picks. Couple minutes left here. Any final words, anything else anybody else would like to bring up here? Dave, Erich.
Well, Erich didn't get a chance to say anything, if he has anything to say in regards to the Gold Jackets saying they're going to boycott the Hall of Fame night if the NFL doesn't do like lifetime benefits and paychecks or something. Did you see that, Erich?
I briefly saw a headline about it, and I mean, listen, the NFL just has so many problems. I mean, even though we try hard here on this show to focus on the games and whatever else, like, it's just more and more nonsense off the field. But again, these are players now that it's all hindsight for them. They played 20, 30 years ago. Yeah, they're Hall of Famers, and I get what they're saying. They're like, well, my bust is in there, and you guys have fans come through and you promote us, but you don't pay us for it. And, so I get their gripe, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be compensated. And that when I say that a Hall of Famer, like if your picture is in there and there's a little blurb about you and you are a Hall of Famer with a gold jacket, then yeah, maybe you should get something for getting inducted. Maybe at that time the NFL says, you know what, you've made enough contributions to this game and are important enough to this game to be in our Hall of Fame. And for that, you get, say, health benefits and, some kind of money. It doesn't have to be yearly. Maybe it could just be one lump sum, maybe $250,000 each or something, just something to help them out, because I believe the older players when they say they didn't make the money that today's players made. They didn't save the money, very well either. And a lot of the former players out there are broke. It's just the facts. Even Hall of Famers, they don't live great, grand lives. They've got to go trade show to trade show selling $5 autographs to make ends meet sometimes. And I get it. I get that that's hard. So maybe for Hall of Famers, they can work something out. But again, it just seems like another black eye for the NFL.
I want to add something to that, if you don't mind, because going off of his point, it's a totally different thing. But in the vein of what Eric's talking about, because Dave, your point at the beginning of the show was no other organization does anything like that, and that is definitely a fair point. Dave, I know you're not a wrestling fan. I'm not a huge wrestling fan anymore myself. Eric, I know you and me both used to be wrestling fans at one point. The WWE does this thing where they will sign a guy they consider important to their history, or a former worker, someone, even if he's someone who's not an important name, someone who was a worker, former worker in a company. They will sign him to a Legends contract, and they've done this with a bunch of guys. They'll put him to work as like a brand ambassador. They'll have him training in their performance center in Florida. They'll do something. They actually do. They've started looking out for a lot of their past stars because of things like CT, especially since like the Chris Benoit thing 11 years ago. You've seen WWE do things like that. And I think if they can do something like that, obviously they're not the NFL. I know this. Truthfully, WWE handles some shit that the NFL handles poorly, better than they do. But I just think if an organization like the WWE can do something like that, there's nothing wrong with throwing these guys a bone. You know what I mean? Especially because they have these health problems coming because they gave their blood, sweat, and tears to help build and grow the NFL when it was in its infancy in terms of popularity.
Yeah. Like I said that in the context of the fact that it's not something that I expect the NFL to do. I mean, look, if you're going to do something, I mean, the benefits side of things I can see. Outside of that, I don't see any way they're going to pay them anything.
Unfortunately, I mean, listen, the NFL is a very reactionary organization. They don't ever take the bull by the horns and try to jump in front of things. They wind up stepping into landmine after landmine. The only way I can see them really doing anything about this is if there's some sort of backlash. And even that isn't a guarantee, because you look at everything with the anthem. It's not exactly like they fix that situation. So God only knows. Anything else? Any other last thoughts, comments?
3-1 Yanks in the bottom of the eighth.
Beautiful.
Go Yanks.
I have one, actually. Let's spend 2 minutes on this. Okay, Dave, you were a Sons of Anarchy fan, right?
Say again?
You were a Sons of Anarchy fan, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Eric, you ever get into Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah, very good show. I don't know how I feel about the Mayans.
That's where I was going with this. Has anybody checked out this Mayans MC?
I watched the first episode. I haven't had a chance to watch any other ones yet, so I can't really pass any type of judgment just yet.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think there's only been one episode out since that pilot episode. And I didn't think the pilot was that bad, actually. Eric, did you get to see the pilot?
Yeah, I saw the first episode and half of the second episode. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about it. You know, I do like that in the first couple of episodes you do see some familiar faces. You do see some a little bit of crossover, and I think that's necessary. It's kind of weird how they were like doing a flashback of like younger him, and then like so. I would give it a chance. I'm going to give it maybe the first season to see how it goes, and then after that, we'll take it from there. But I'll probably give it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a chance too. I'll tell you this: those flashbacks, I kind of like the way they did it with the wording 3 years ago, where it would just kind of fade in the background. I like the way they did that. But and we're going to go spoilers here. As much as I liked seeing Gemma Teller in the background when they went to Stockdale, or I think it was Stockton prison, after I had a couple minutes to think about it, that just felt very ham-fisted into the show. What did you guys think?
Well, it is, and it's because they want to make sure that everybody knows it's in the same world and kind of going on in conjunction with what was going on over there, and they want to kind of set that up because, you know, people that, you know, Sons of Anarchy's been off the air for, what, like 2 years now, maybe more?
Yeah, but to me, and I'm sorry to cut you off, I felt like, listen, I want to see Tibbs show up. I want to see Chib show up. Let me see those guys. The Gemma thing, I mean, listen, it was cool seeing Gemma in there, but, I mean, it felt a little cheap. That's all. Dave?
Well, I mean, like you said, something I think you want to do to, like, the little things to connect the two worlds. And,
Yeah.
you know, the Mayans and the Suns obviously were constantly, you know, the two crews that were in the show. So you got to have some connection with them, but at the same time, I wasn't in a rush for it. I have no issue if it's its own show.
Yeah.
But, you know, at any time you want to drop a cameo of her, I'm all right with it.
I tell you this last thought, and then we can get out of here. I liked the kid who's the main character. I think his name is JD. I liked him. I think he was pretty good. I could kind of at least get behind the first season of the show with him.
If you guys like that show, do you watch the show Animal Kingdom?
No.
You should give that one a chance. It's on I think it's on TNT, or it's either on TNT or USA, but it's very good and in the same type of vein of a Sons of Anarchy, or like, you know, pretty much about a family who's, you know, a bunch of hooligans. So it's really good. Draws you in. It's, you know, a couple seasons in now. I think 3 or 4 seasons in. It's worth watching. I would say it's definitely worth watching. It's pretty badass.
I am so backed up on like TV shows that I have not gotten caught up on. I haven't seen Glow season 2. I haven't seen Iron Fist season 2. I stopped midway through Cloak and Dagger. I got like 3 or 4 other shows that I want to watch, but I just have not been able to get back into. So, Dave?
I watched one episode left of Iron Fist season 2. Still the worst Marvel Netflix show, but they did a better job this season than they did with the first one.
That seems to be the general consensus, is that it's still not great, but it's better. That's what I've heard.
Still the worst out of all of them. Jessica Jones.
Can you believe it? I don't watch any of those Marvel shows. I don't watch any of the Netflix Marvel stuff.
Yeah,
you would like Marvel Daredevil. I don't know how you'd feel about the rest of them, but Daredevil I think you'd like.
Nah, he'd like that, but he'd like Punisher. Punisher was great.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You would absolutely, like, honestly, you can watch Punisher, and you don't need to have watched any of it. Like, honestly, watching Daredevil, the first few episodes of season 2 helps if you're going to watch Punisher, but you don't need to have watched Daredevil season 2 to watch the Punisher. You can just go straight into that.
And then the other one I want to watch is Jack Ryan.
I don't have Amazon. I heard that was good, though.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking forward to watching that one.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts here. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, both of you guys. I appreciate it. Dave Hastings, final thoughts.
You know what? Just for Erich's sake, go Yankees.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Erich. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Erich Chesler, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go Yankees. 3-1 going to the top of the 9th. Hopefully we can close them out here. Boom.
Beautiful. And I am Mike Aguilar. The Mets have to win every game for the rest of the season to finish at 500. Go Mets! Everybody have a good night. Stay sweaty, everybody. We'll see y'all next week.